Good morning all of you students. So today again welcome to lecture series for the class of the MSc Physics, and we have to see here the subject which is the energy study, and we want to continue the first module. That module is the energy resources and energy scenario. So starting from the point, we want to summarize the last lecture. So last lecture we have see here the points of the importance of the renewable energy sources and the advantages and disadvantages of the renewable energy sources as well as non-renewable energy sources. Okay, or you have to know that. So what is mean by the renewable energy sources? That renewable energy sources which is replenished again and again in the nature, that is called as the renewable energy sources. And for example this, so that is the solar energy, wind energy, biomass energy, etc., etc. And now after that we have to consider or see here the non-conventional or non-renewable energy resources. So that non-renewable energy resources means that energy resources which is not replenished in the nature, so that is known as the non-renewable energy sources. And after that we have to see here what is meant by the extensible or inexhaustible energy resources or the energy exhaustible energy resources. So in this lecture we want to see here two main points. That points is the energy security and energy strategy, because you have to know that before many decades, for the last years ago, so that the country dependence on the energy is depends on the many imported fuel like as the petroleum, gases, etc. That all types of the energy sources which is depends upon the non-renewable energy resources, and this is very alarming condition for the energy resources, because this is the very limited stock in the earth or stock files. So we have to, that's why important, why we want to study the energy security, or what is mean by the energy security. So energy security means that the energy security of a nation to reduce its dependency on the imported energy sources for its economic growth. Okay, so what is mean by energy security? That energy security means by the reduce the dependency of the imported fuel or imported energy sources like as fossil fuel, petroleum, gas, etc. So this is known by the energy security. And the energy supply to the energy demand gap has been worsening, because you have to know that, so that country is has how much amount of the energy supply is need, and how much amount of energy harnessing in the country, and how much amount of the demand of the energy in the country. So that is the very large gap between this, and this is the worsening since the year of the 1985. The main factor is because the country has the harness the energy is depends upon the coal, and that is the net importer of coal. And you have to know that India has unable to the harness the excessive amount of oil production or sustainable, and the country becomes the net importer of the coal. So this is the main factor of the energy security, because this is depends upon the importation of the fuel and how much amount of energy excess or extract in the our nation. If you see that increasing the dependence of the oil of imports means depends on the imports from the Middle East countries or like region, and it is always susceptible to disturbance and the subsequent disturbance of oil supplies, and this sales of the diversification of the sources of the oil import. And the need of deal the international oil prices fluctuation also require the action to be taken to reduce the dependence of the economy. Well, you have to know so that India is depends upon the oil importation of the Middle East countries or Middle East region, so that huge amount of the oil sources which is imported from there, and this is directly effect on the economical growth of the country. And that's why need to we have to develop or need to we have to develop the very good energy strategies that the oil dependency economy by the developing alternative oils such as natural gas and renewable energy sources. So that is mean by we have to need to develop the energy resources as well as oil resources which is imported from the foreign country or Middle East country. So if you want to going to continue the increasing the economical growth of the country, so that need we have to developing the countries for the energy sources and oil production technologies, and to meet the future challenges of the energy security of the India. And that's why we have to need to the government should adopt the following strategy to secure these energy resources. For these energy resources, that various type of strategy, that is what way to going forward for which is help to increasing the energy security or on which type of the energy strategy we want to develop in the country, because that country which is depends on the imported fuel which is going to the less. So consider this strategy. So first strategy is consider here the building stockpiles, because that how much amount of energy which is extracted for our nation and how much amount of energy which is imported from the other country. So we have to need the building stockpiles, means we have to develop or construct the huge amount of storages of the oil or the fossil fuels or other energy resources, because when the price rate of the fuel as well as the oil which is very less amount in the world, so that times we have to import huge amount of the oil and fossil fuels, and this imported fossil fuel which is stored in the these stockpiles, and that is the help to the country if the rates of the world level rates of the fossil fuel which is increasing, and that type these helpful storages to the use of the or utilization of the energy. Next main point of the strategy which is the diversification of the energy supply sources, and because you have to know that whole country is depends upon the fossil fuel as well as that limited storages of the fuel that using the energy harnessing and energy utilization. So we need to the country which is diversification of the other energy sources like as the renewable energy sources, that is considered as if we use the alternative source of the energy, we have to use solar energy, wind energy, biomass energy, etc. So which is help to the our country to utilization of the energy. Next point is here the increase the capacity of the fuel switching. So that is also the main part. So that is the capacity, increasing the capacity of the fuel switching, and also use the very cleanliness of the coal or gasification of the coal which is used in the utilization of the energy and uses of the other fossil fuel sources, and that sources which is have the increasing capacity of the output. Next which is use demand restraint or control. So that is you have to know that if the increasing the demand of the energy, so that is the effects on the energy supply of the energy, because if the energy demand is high, then you have to know that so provide the continuously energy supply or energy flow to the country. So you have to know that, or you have to use that types of the strategy, that is which is the control on this energy sources, or control of the energy utilization, so to the minimize the level of the energy control, or energy demand, or which is the we want to stabilize the condition of the energy utilization. And next main point is which is the development of the energy sources. Or early few lectures see here, we have to know that why we want to developing the renewable energy sources, because we have to need the developing of the energy sources, because we have to consider as present condition, so how much amount of the energy sources is available, and country depends on this energy sources. So we have to know that or predict that, so that the much amount of energy which is depends upon the non-renewable energy sources, and this is the very alarming condition. So these are the concept of the energy security and energy strategies. So summarize this point. So what is mean by the energy security? That energy security is known by the dependence of the nation on the imported fuel or the oil. So that is based on the energy security, and that energy security uh, we want to develop the basic idea of the energy strategy, because we want to increase the storages of the fuel, uh, utilize the energy sources, or store the much amount of the fuel sources, or increasing the capacity of the fuel sources. And we want to see the developing of the energy sources, or another alternative source of the energy. So next point we want to see here, to consider as the favorable, their implementation will take the time for country like India, and the dependence of the stock buildings tends to slow, because the resources constraint. So that you have to know that India has, like as a developing country, and this is one to the implementation of the storage stockpiles or storages, and this the construction of storages or developing storages technology. So India has the slower rates of the developing these types of the stockpiles, and also the dependence on the stock buildings tends to slow. Okay, and that Indian market is not sophisticated to monitoring the agencies are not experienced through the predict the supply of the situation of the time, take the necessary action. So because that we unable to predict, so at which time the energy supply or energy demand which is increasing, and how it is controlled. So this is the very main factor to developing country to analyze the this situation. So that's why we want to see how to manage, or how to develop the essential factor for the sustainable development, or how to development of the sustain to these types of the energy which is used for the very large time, or very many years, for which is usable as the very suitably. So that's why we want to see here, the main point is the essential factors for the sustainable development, or consider as what is mean by the sustainable development. So that is, you have to know that the increasing the world population which is required to definite and successful implementation of the sustainable development. Because if the world population is increased, so that population is directly is effect on the energy harnessing or the resource of the energy, and that population or that factors which is achieve that, or want to the successful implementation of the sources to the development. And there are the various parameter of the sustainable development, so we want to see here. So main point is essential factors for the sustainable development. essential factors for essential factors for sustainable development. So what factor and what depends upon this? Because the increasing due to the population increase the demand of the energy. That increasing the demand of the energy, we want to find the perfect energy sources or perfect or successive implement of the energy sources, and that various factor which is considered as the first factor, and that such parameter is described. So that which parameters is described below. So very first factor or parameters which is we want to the general awareness or the public awareness. Because we have to know that what is meant by the public awareness, so that the all population or all country public have to aware that how much amount of energy utilized for using the great way or see this is the sustainable development has very first step, and that is very crucial to making the sustainable energy resources or this is program successful with the help of the public awareness, and this should be carried out through by the media and public and the professional organization. So consider what is mean by the public organization public awareness, because you have to thinking on the topics of, so if you need uh, uh, going for one place to another place or travel from one place to another place, you want to use the public travels agency or government travels vehicles also use, avoid the self vehicles to traveling for the short distances. So that types of the awareness have got the public, because of this is very helpful to avoid pollution as well as also the limited use of the fossil fuel sources, and which is help to the maintaining the energy security and energy strategy. So that know that this is the very first step of the energy sustainable with the help of the public resources like as the media, like as the public and the professional organization, with the help of the public and professional organization. Next main factor of the sustainable development, which is the information. Information, or what is the points cover in this information parameter, so that is known by we have to know that what types of the energy input or how much of the energy input use or how much of energy is output which is given. So that is the necessary information of the input of energy utilization, environmental impact of renewable energy resources, etc., that should have provide the public through the public and the government channel. So this is give the information to the public or the country to how much amount of energy utilization input is used or what is the impact of the renewable energy sources. So that is the main factors of the sustainable development. Next one is environmental education and the training. Environmental education and training. So this is also very good factors or parameters of the sustainable development, because if we awareness of the environment or information of given what type of the information, what type of the input, what is the impact of the environment, so that's want to need we have to give the environmental education as well as the training for the implementation as the completing part of the information. And that is the significance prerequisite or the sustainable energy program. For this reason, the wide people of the specialized agency and training facility should be made to available to the public. Next point of the sustainable development, which is the promoting renewable energy resources. Promoting renewable energy resources. So that also need for to promote the public the uses of the increasing the uses of the renewable energy sources, because this type of the energy resources which is do not ending, and that's why, so that achieve the environmental sustainable environment position or the energy program or renewable energy sources, which is efficient dissemination of the information, which is also taken, and this is promoted for the every stage, that is the uses of the renewable energy sources. Next one is the innovative energy strategies. Fifth one is considered as the innovative energy strategy, because we want to require to involve these provide the effective sustainable energy program, therefore require the effective dissemination of the information based on the new methods of the consisting of the public relations, training, consuming, etc. So that's why need to innovative energy resources, innovative energy resources. Innovative energy strategy, so that is known by, so what type of the strategy used to develop the sustainable development of the energy resources. Next one is the financing. This is next parameters of the sustainable development. So that number is the 6, or this is known as the financing. Okay, so that depends upon the accelerate the implementation of the renewable energy system and technologies for the sustainable energy resources development of the country. So because, for example, consider as the country should have the financial support of the soft loan or tax benefit to the people who use the system and the technology, or that industry or that company or that system which is harness the renewable types of the energy. So we want to do provide the energy strategy for the government to provide the funding and also loan or taxes benefit for this company, which has to help to extract the more amount of the renewable energy sources. Next, my main factors which is helpful for the sustainable development, which is the monitoring and evaluation tools. Monitoring and evaluation tools, so that parameter consider as, so how to order to see how successfully our program has been implemented. So that is know that, so all other factor which is want to need the public awareness, information, environmental education training, promoting renewable energy sources, innovative energy strategy, and also consider as the financing. And if develop this resource of the energy or system, so in this monitoring and the evaluation tools consider as the how much amount of output, or how this source is successful to program has implement, and the great importance of the monitor, and each step has evaluated the data, and the funding is obtained to regard the appropriate monitoring of the resources. So these are the main factors or main parameters of the development of the sustainable or essential factors of the sustainable developments. So in this lecture we have considered three main points: so energy security, energy strategy, and essential factors for the sustainable development. So that is the clear idea why we need to use the renewable energy sources as compared to the non-renewable energy resources. And next lecture we want to find here what is mean by the energy conservation and energy efficiency. So because small idea we have to give here, so what is mean by the energy conservation? That energy conservation means the reduction in energy consumption without making and the sacrifice of the quality or quantity of the production of the energy, which is considered as the energy conservation. And the energy efficiency, which is considered as the input energy sources which is which use, and how much amount of output which is available, so that is depends upon the energy efficiency. So that 2 points which is see in the next lecture. So thanking of you.